bam. Let's do it. Let's do it live. What's up, sons? It's Blind Rud with Son of a Tech once again, and I have a very serious problem that we have to address at some point. It's really noisy. So I swapped over to an Intel 12900K. It's on the Gigabyte 690 Aorus Master. We already did like a review video on that. We did, you know, the testing, and I'm getting my gamer subs ready right here. And we did the testing, of course, for the Raptorium mining performance. I'm really liking the gaming performance as well as the just general application performance for the 12900K. So when I started setting up the office again, which obviously all we got to was doing this part, the part you can't see. I went ahead and swapped over, but I have a Lee 360 millimeter cooler, and it is cranking them fans, baby, which doesn't really make much sense because here's the thing. Let me get hardware info open. Double check. It's cool as a cucumber. You know what I mean? It's just floating along, being cucumber cool. At, what is it? 47 degrees Celsius currently. So why is the Lee cooler like 100% fan speed? And then you can hear it because it rumbles through the mic because the computer is attached to the desk. So that's what it is. Yeah, we can always try to ban scammers. It's kind of hard because I don't have any, what do you call them? Moderators. Well, I'm a one-man show. Bah! Done. Ben Reaper says, the DDR5 RAM just made me decide to wait. I understand that. I get that. I got 32 gigs for $269 from Micro Center on launch day. And if you're going to plan an upgrade, the thing that sucks right now, and I think this is just true for anything, is that you have to almost buy sight unseen and hope for the best. Because if you try to wait for reviews, there's never going to be any reviews for you to check out, right? And so that kind of sucks. I'm not a big fan of what's going on there. But today, NBMiner has a new release. We're going to go over the patch notes for that. We're also going to be talking about eToro limiting Cardano purchases, which has resulted in a decrease in price, of course, of Cardano. And then we are going to go over our standard stuff, our mining profitability, if I have any rigs down, why those rigs are down, our what to mine calculators, etc. And then I will be showing you guys results from the 3090 versus the 6900 XT, 6900 XT on the 12900K. I know some of you all probably aren't interested in that, but I'm interested in it. It'll be real brief. We only have a single time spy and a single fire strike benchmark to compare. It's interesting stuff, and we can talk about, you know, essentially the differences between the two GPU manufacturers right now. But before we get into it today, let's check out an ad from our sponsor, GamerSupps. Today's video is brought to you in partnership with GamerSupps. GamerSupps provides a healthy alternative to sugary energy drinks with delicious flavors like Misfits Melon or my favorite Blue Raz. I use the GamerSupps as an alternative to support my active lifestyle outside of content creation. Caffeine-free options are great for late-night gaming after the kids have gone to bed. And my favorite part about GamerSupps is that they accept cryptocurrency. And for a limited time, when you purchase a tub with cryptocurrency, you will receive a Bitcoin shaker. Follow the affiliate link in the description. And don't forget to use code SOAT at checkout. Alrighty, welcome back. I'm on. First of all, India has already banned crypto about 30 different times. Second of all, spamming it in chat did get me a response, but it's also going to get you a timeout. So there we go. All right, for everyone else, let's go ahead and hop into today's first topic, which is going to be NBMiner 40.1 or version 40.1. Let me see. Yes, it worked right off the bat. Here we go. So it looks like 2 days ago, we have to go over 2 patch notes because we did miss the big release, which was NBMiner version 40.0. Now we have 40.1. So let's go ahead and go over 40.0. I have not tested this yet. Obviously, we're going to be testing it. So, feature update. Add overclock options for NVIDIA GPUs. Require admin privilege. Accept comma separated lists to specify for each GPU. So right within the miner batch file itself, you can go ahead and start setting your basically overclocks per GPU. And this can be nice if you're daily, driving a system and then you want to mine on it later. Just running the batch file to adjust the overclock can be kind of beneficial there. However, I still don't really recommend utilizing your primary system for this. I do want to say, Nase, thanks for the $10. I will respond to the super chat at the end of the video per usual. All right. So your switches are power limit, which is just -PL. You have a switch for core clock, so -C clock. You have a switch for M clock, which is going to be the -M clock. You have a switch for lock CV, which locks the core voltage, by the way. And then you do have a switch for the fan speed with the -fan switch. Alrighty, so other features. Feature display current, light hash rate value, and console summary table and web monitor. Feature the proxy switch options now support username and password for SOCKS 5. Proxy format is the proxy switch and then user : password @ port. Feature web monitor changes, delete unused information for dual mining, and feature new options for log control. You have log no job, turn off the new job line in console, and log cycle set to change the cycle of summary table, show in console and log in seconds, defaults to 30. There are 2 fixes. The first fix is for ET hash, and it changed CPU share validation to independent thread, lower performance degradation when mining at very low difficulty pools, and then a fix LHR lock detection failure on some cases or in some cases. Now we do have 40.1, which added a fix for ET hash, which basically was version 40 false detected as light hash rate lock under latest NVIDIA driver versions, and feature supports future light hash rate GPU models, whatever that means. That's interesting. So is there any performance upgrade for the latest NBMiner 40.1 or 40? It doesn't look like it from a light hash rate perspective, or well, any perspective at this point. The only thing that is really interesting to me primarily is going to be the feature that states that they support future light hash rate GPU models. I don't know what those are exactly at this point, but it could hint towards, of course, something around the corner for launch. So maybe that could be cool. Maybe there is something going on there. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled and check it out. So there you go. If you guys want to check it out, I will go ahead and put it in chat now for you all. And then afterwards, of course, it will be in the notes, which I'll actually add now. Bam. Down in the description below. So there you go. All good as far as that goes. And then Honda Man, you're getting a timeout. And let's move on to, I guess, the main topic. Now, this isn't a proof of work topic, but this is really interesting. The reason we're talking about this is because It involves Cardano, which involves Ergo, which does impact mining, especially post Ethereum 2.0 merge or Ethereum proof of stake merge. So I want to cover it and stay up to date with, of course, the Ergo and Cardano platforms. And that is going to be that eToro to limit Cardano and Tron for US customers. Coin prices fall. The prices of cryptocurrency tokens have taken a hit following the announcements. Trading platform eToro will be limiting crypto assets Cardano, short is ADA, and Tron, short is TRX. I don't even know why they need a short for it, for US customers starting in December due to, quote, business-related considerations in the evolving regulatory environment, according to the statement on its website, which we'll take a look at. Let's hit the bullet points. The statement published Tuesday said that users in the U.S. will no longer be able to open new positions in or receive staking rewards for Cardano or Tron. Restrictions on opening new positions in Cardano and Tron will take effect on December 26th, while staking for the asset will end on December 31st. The final staking rewards payouts for both assets will take place on January 15th, 2022. According to eToro's announcement, users will still be able to, quote, securely hold existing positions, end quote, for the two cryptocurrencies, as the limitations only apply to new positions. Users can sell their Cardano or Tron in exchange for US dollars anytime, and eToro is working on a way to make it possible for users to move these two assets to their eToro crypto wallets, the statement said. Since the announcement was published, at one point, Cardano prices dropped by more than 6% at press time. Tron was down 2.4%. Taking to Twitter on Tuesday, Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson said eToro's decision was due to a systemic lack of clarity, end quote, in global crypto regulations. So I think as far as Charles Hoskinson's response there, he's spot on. As far as like, nobody knows what the heck's going on with regulation in cryptocurrency. What we do know is that you shouldn't be using eToro anyways. Ha ha! Not your keys, not your crypto. In addition, don't hold anything over there. You should definitely not be staking in centralized platforms such as eToro. You can stake perfectly fine in a nice decentralized manner with Cardano. So there you go. Do that instead. Do that instead. Now, is it going to make it harder, more difficult to purchase Cardano? I guess. Who uses eToro, by the way? Just kind of curious. Apparently, somebody that could drop the price 6%, but that's not too much. Tron, though, on the other hand, I don't really care about Tron. Do you guys care about Tron anymore? Does anybody care about... Hey, does anybody care about Tron anymore? No, nobody cares about Tron anymore. So, there you go. All right, let's take a look at their official statement. Important update regarding ADA and Tron. eToro will be limiting, of course, blah, blah, blah for users in the US. Let's see. When will it take effect? We already went over those things. How it affect it? We already went over that. Can I move it? We already went over that. What if I'm invested in smart portfolio that contains it? If you're invested in a smart portfolio that includes the assets, they will be converted to open positions in your personal portfolio, available to be held or closed. Okay. If you're copying someone who holds either one, it is up to their discretion on how they want to handle these holdings. They may opt to sell their holdings. If this should happen, your copy holdings would also be sold, as is standard whenever someone you're copying sells their holdings. Users, including U.S. popular investors, will not be able to open any new Cardano or Tron holdings after the limitation is implemented. Any remaining holdings will be removed from the copy trader portfolio and replaced with an open position in your personal portfolio in early 2022. Let's see. Will eToro force the selling of it? We have no plans. What happens to the positions after I'm no longer able to sell them? You'll still be able to send your Tron and Cardano holdings to the eToro Money crypto wallet, even when you can no longer sell the holdings for US dollar. Can I send it to a different wallet, or do you send it? I don't have an eToro Money crypto wallet. Can you send? So if I buy it in eToro, and then I send it to the crypto wallet, can I send it out from the crypto wallet to a third-party wallet? Because that's what I need to be able to do. That's what I need to be able to do. I'm just saying, if I was in the position of ever working with eToro, which I am not. So there's that. Let's see. Pretty much covers that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what Mr. Charles said. So Charles in response says, and we didn't even get delisted. Cardano is still on eToro and non-US customers can freely trade. Okay. So I'm not getting a ton of information out of this though. Cardano just got listed on major crypto exchanges, Bitstamp, that does 513 billion in volume a day. But all I'm seeing is negative news about Cardano getting delisted from a small exchange, eToro, that only does 67 billion. That's just a pumper. Come on, Charles, give me more info. Anyways, that's where we're at, boys. Save the questions for the end. We'll get to them here shortly. Let's go ahead and cover my mining farm, which is having some issues today. Now, you guys love it when I have issues, don't you? All right. So first of all, we have one worker offline. We'll be talking about that here in just a second. We're doing about 356 US dollars a day. And it's showing that our average hash rate is 4.81 over the last whatever time. It's weird because, well, I'll show you. We have essentially this, and then simple mining, we have another 300 or so mega hash on, and it's at 4.8 gigahash a second. I guess that's about right. This is the rig that's down. It is a 5700 XT rig, and the reason it is down is because the file system is down. So I've had a whole bunch of USB drives for years, running, right? These ones that are dying specifically are PNY from Best Buy. And they have basically just systematically started dropping, right? So there are like certain things that I start to notice, like patterns with like equipment and so on. The PUNY USB 2.0 drives are dying, just one at a time. The other thing that's dying on me a lot right now is the ASRock Challenger Pros fans. Those, which is interesting, you can interchange with the XFX fans. And while the XFX fans are a different model entirely, the fans fit, they plug in, and they seem, at least from my experience with the XFX graphics cards I have, to last longer. So I'm currently in the process of replacing all of the fans on the ASRock RX 5700 XT Challenger Pro. And that's kind of where we're at. Those are two things that I just noticed like right off the bat, in case you guys were curious. Now, I do have essentially another problem, which is we have one CPU that is not running Raptorium. This was because I was having specifically an issue that I couldn't nail down, so I took it off. What I found was essentially that I had a 3080 Ti that had too high of a memory clock and was failing, so we dropped that memory clock from 2000 to 1900, and it's been stable for 13 hours. So I think we're good. We'll probably turn on Raptorium again. And then the only other two things that we have running at Raptorium is a 1950X at this 851 hash a second, and the 5800X? Wait, is this the 5800X? 5800X at the, well, now 1.2 kilohash a second. Big differences here that you should pay attention to, I think, right now with Raptorium that people are not paying attention to, and we're going to be talking about because we've been getting a whole bunch of extra processors to test. L3 cache matters more than amount of cores. This is across the board, and this means that you can have essentially a 3600X or 3600, and that will perform on par with the 1950X. So the Threadripper 1950X only has 32 megabytes of cache. How does that translate onto Raptorium, right? Well, it translates by basically cutting down the performance per core all the way down to basically whatever the 3600X would get. Here's where things get interesting with the 3000 series. This is also why the 3900X and the 5900X are kind of the kings. They have 64 megabytes of cache. Here's where things get really, really interesting though. If we went to like Newegg, and let me make sure Newegg doesn't have any of my information here. We're just going to sign out to make sure that nothing comes up. And we're going to go ahead and do this. So, because this is important for you guys to understand when you're talking about Raptorium. So we're going to go components, processors, AMD. All right. So if we come down to, yeah, this all looks good. All right, so if we come down to here, what you're really looking for is this number, this cache, right? But here's where things get extra confusing. So they don't have the slots here. Check this out, right? So let's talk about just the, let's say the 32 megabytes of cache, right? And then your 5800X is going to have the same as the 5600. In my testing, I'm seeing the 5600 perform just as well as the 5800X for the most part, right? Same goes across the board. These two will perform pretty much the same. Your 3700X actually ends up performing a little worse than the 3600X, which is interesting. 3800X performs about the same. Here's where things get a little confusing, and that is going to be the XT models, okay? So the 3000 series actually released a set of XT models. These XT models end up having more cache in them. This isn't actually listed right either. So let me see if I can find the right listing. Is it this one that lists it? Yeah. So these actually have the 3 more megabytes of L3 cache. And if we go to the 3900 XT, this one gets extra interesting because it bumps up from the 64 megabytes of L3 cache to the 70 megabytes of L3 cache. Now, I've not fully vetted these. I have a 3600 XT on the way. I will be getting a 3900 XT to test as well if I can find one that is priced decently. But we're going to be testing those because what's interesting is that what I am seeing, like I said, is L3 plus or L3 cache affecting the performance a significant amount. So just kind of wanted to point that out to you guys, because if you can find like, right, so if you have the 3600X and 32 megabytes of cache or whatever, I think you can upgrade. Now, here's where things get weird. So I was trying to vet it all the way. Here, let's go over here. Because what if... Because I might be wrong. And this is where maybe you guys can help me as well. what I think might be happening. Why doesn't it let me do this? Hold on. Because what I think might be happening is that it's adding the L2 cache and the L3 cache and then naming it the game cache. And what I need to test and see, because, well, either way, I need to get it on a CPU-Z. Maybe you guys can find a screenshot of the CPU-Z for me. Here we go. See, okay, never mind. So it is wrong here. So the total L3 cache is 32 megabytes. So I think I'm actually incorrect. And this is what I was trying to find. So I think what they're doing, which is frustrating, and maybe it's because they call it game cache. So if you look at here, they split it up, L2 cache, L3 cache. And then when you go to the XT, they call it just cache, which is basically, I think, where I've messed up. So there you go. Anyways, these are the things that I was looking at. The main point, though, I guess, at the end of the day, is going to be that you want to be looking at the cache over the amount of cores, right? So if you just went through all of these, right? Well, your primary focus would probably be trying to find something like the lowest cost 64 megabytes of cache or up. So your 5900X, your 3900X, your, yeah, pretty much. Threadrippers are probably going to be cost prohibitive unless you get up to 128 megabytes of cache. So, but this would have to be, in my opinion, around $1,100 for it to be worth it. And this has the 128 megabytes of L3 cache. There we go. Hey, is Rabbit Mining in the chat? All right. So let's talk about, because I had to basically go through my, I basically had to go through my late night purchasing orders of essentially buying different CPUs and looking at specs and then comparing it and then messing up my L3 cache, L2 cache readings on Newegg and then do that live. So we'll do it live. I messed up. It's 32 megabytes of cache on all of them. Still, you want more cache. So there you go. That doesn't change. My reading of the stats changed though. So that's important to put up. And I think it's good to do it live. You guys see I make mistakes. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the 12900K upgrade. I recently purchased a 12900K. We have 32 gigabytes of the DDR5 clocked at 5200 megahertz. And then, of course, it's on the Gigabyte RS Z690 motherboard, which has been actually fantastically solid outside of needing an initial BIOS flash to detect the NVMe drive. After that, we've been good. All the USB ports work, thank goodness, because on the ASRock B550 Tai Chi, I was having issues still with 2 or 3 USB ports that would kind of drop in and out. That's been a problem on AMD chipsets for a while. Jeez, it's way hotter in here. So I went ahead and swapped that out into my main system. Now the only cooler available was the Lee & Lee 360 millimeter cooler for the LGA 1700 socket. I got lucky. I say I got lucky. I went to Micro Center on launch day, so I got DDR5 memory for $269. I understand that most people aren't going to be able to build that. So there you go. You can get very fast DDR4 memory though. And you can run that on a DDR4 motherboard with the 12900K if you so wish. What's the reasoning behind switching the main system to the 12900K? Well, first of all, I don't care about power in my main system, right? What's the biggest downside of the 12900K? So it takes more power than the 5950X. I got some allergies going on still. All right. So what I wanted to do was essentially move the 5950X with that 64 megabytes of L3 cache over to mining. And if you look at the rest of the performance charts for the 12900K, the 12900K comes out on top for pretty much everything. So as a daily driver, it makes more sense. Now, the only tests I've done currently have been gaming tests, and I tested TimeSpy and I tested Firestrike. I did not compare them to the 5950X at this time. We can actually pull those up though. It's not too hard. But what I wanted to show you guys, because this kind of also goes to show you essentially PC parts picking choice depending on what you're doing. So I'm definitely sticking with the 6900 XT, and we tested the 3090 and then had done that for our initial review. So we actually do have numbers for the 6900 XT here. And it's interesting because what you'll see is if we take a look at the TimeSpy, which is a 1440p test, the 3090 actually wins, but it wins by less than, basically within margin of error, less than 1%, 0.8%. I think the highest is 1.2% on the CPU test here, which probably accounts for the 0.7%, right? It was just performing a little bit better. These are basically the 6900 XT and the 3090 are performing almost identical. Here's where things get pretty interesting though. This is Firestrike. This is a 1080p test. 12900K still running the same, blah, blah, blah. The 6900 XT outperforms it by 10%, 10 to 14% in the graphics realm here, right? Look at that. Look at that. What's the moral of the story? If you like to play competitive shooters at high frame rates, 6900 XT. That's all I have for that. I just found it interesting. I think it's important to note. Of course, both of those cards are expensive and hard to get a hold of. I think the 6900 XT though right now is cheaper because of the current market and the 3090 being used for mining. So if you're looking for something for gaming, high refresh rate, seems like a choice to go. All right, let's get to questions. And we got about 25 minutes for questions. Ooh, I'm gonna sit down. What, can I sit down? Can I sit down for questions? It does not. I sat on my phone. Bam! All right. Nostay says, been mining for 6 months and I have 8 1660 Super TIs. I'm in it for the long run and revenue. Do you think there is a better card price efficiency hash than a 1660 STI? I have no hookups, so eBay pricing. I don't even know what eBay pricing is right now for that, right? So to me, it feels like all the prices are all over the place. Meaning like, essentially, if I look it up right now, what are these? $400 or $500 basically for 1660 Supers. So I was doing this, like, okay. So if you have, for example, let's say you have, and let's try to do this calculation out this way. Hold on. Why is the... All right, I need the calculator up. Oh, yeah. So I'm doing window capture. Just add the calculator. Bam. Done. Poof. So let's say... Or actually, we don't even need this, do we? Hold on. We can do it like this. Watch this. Let's just do... 3, 4. You'd need 4 1660 supers to be equivalent to a 3090. So at $500, it's going to be $2,500. Right? And how much is a 3090 going to run you on eBay? $3,000. Well, there's a couple. Well, yeah. Couple. And then what's your power at? Your power is also higher. I don't know, it's cutting it close. Plus you have to have more motherboards for the same equivalent. Yeah, I'd still try to get like 3090s for like 2,500 to 2,600. I understand like eBay pricing. I never use eBay either though. So there's that. All right, let's look at other questions. I don't know, you know, I feel like the resaleability on 3000 and 6000 series GPUs is going to be better. What is the 6600 at? Because can't you still... I mean, 6600 would basically be a more power efficient 1660 Super. And on eBay, they're around the same price. Yeah, switch it up, bro. Go 6600. Switch it up. Go 6600. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Oh, Ted, good to see you back in chat. Detroit Irish says new 2060 light hash rate possible. Why would they do a 2060 light hash rate? That would be weird. Get rid of old stock. Crypto Wrath, I like Tron. Detroit Irish, love it when the farm is down. Yep. All right, so Techness Corner says, Son of a Tech looked new to this. Found you not too long ago. I know some peeps be haters, but I have some cash coming in, thinking either 13090 or 23080 LHR. What would be better in the short and the long? I mean, that's a weird one. Because what does the 3080 do right now? Light hash rate. I don't like light hash rate, but I also am a little confused as to how you could afford two 3080s but only one 3090. Let's see. So two of those together would put you at 140 mega hash a second at 480 watts with a revenue of $882 a day after power cost of 10 cents a kilowatt hour. A 3090 is going to give you $7.35 a day on Ethereum after a kilowatt, or after a power cost of 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So you're going to make more money on the 3080 light hash rate. If they're the same price, you get two 3080s. Fair enough. Another point, I guess, about that would be it still does really good on Flux too, at $8.70 a day. So hopefully that was helpful. All right. Does CAS latency 14 really matter? CAS latency does matter. And the tighter the timings, the better the processor will perform, especially on Ryzen CPUs. The older the Ryzen CPU, the more of an effect it has, because the Infinity Fabric is built into the CPU, or through the memory. Sorry. So, what you'll notice is that the older the Ryzen CPU is, the more the memory speed has an effect on the performance of the processor. CryptoRast says, what is the max memory temp I should be running my 3080 at for long-term mining? I'm considering at between 88 and 94, but I've heard that running it more than 88 is no good. What? Bro, that's really cold. You're fine. You're right all the way up to 100. 110C is thermal throttling, and then you really just want to avoid that so you can maintain, of course, obviously, the most hash rate. Technis Corner says also the 10 series i9 has more cache than the other Pentiums in the 10 core and 20 core overheating. I have it clocked to 5.1 gigahertz. Okay. I believe the 10 series i9 was better at mining than both the 11,000 and 12,000 for Raptorium. So that adds up, Technis Corner. Let's see. I'm scrolling down. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, you want to tag me at SonOfATech, and then if you want the priority, obviously, is Super Chats. Let's see. Kane said, where are you putting your hash rate once 2.0 comes out? I'm not really worried about it. I'll know when 2.0 comes out. I can't analyze the future. It's also why I'm not a trading channel. Overclocks for 3070 on ETH. We can do that, baby. I can do that for you. That I can do. Where is it? Right here. Hash rate's a little down. We have a couple that are off, but here you go. Bam! Shabooty. All right. We got 13 3070s online right now on a single rig. ASRock H110 BTC Pro. And as you can see, most of them are at 2600 megahertz on the memory. But see all these invalid shares? This one has to come down. This one's going to come down to 2400. We're just going to apply that little baby right there and hopefully get rid of those invalid shares. We did have to do that on a couple others. See this one right here? It was getting some invalid shares too, so we had to knock it down to 2400. See this one right down here? We knocked it down to 2400 and it still got invalid shares, so we had to knock it down to 2200. It was being a little bitch, you know what I'm saying? So it is going to, like, mileage is going to vary. Mileage is going to vary, but for the most part, you're looking at a core of 1100 megahertz, a memory of 2600 megahertz, and a power limit between 125 and 130. And that is what you would be looking at for a non-light hash rate RTX 3070. And I have quite a few for a sample size there, so I don't know. Seems pretty good to me. All right. Jeff Rodriguez also says, got the EVGA step up email for your 3070 XT3 Ultra non-light hash rate, doing the upgrade for a 3080 for the Win 3 light hash rate. Not sure if it's the best, going from 62 mega hash a second at 120 watts to 70 mega hash a second at 230 watts. We'll use for gaming also. Well, we can always go back to the calculator. So if you have a single 3080, you do have that 441 of profit a day on the Zell hash. So it's a little bit more, which is that flux, a little bit more than Ethereum at 439 a day. If you compare that to a 3070 non-light hash rate, you have 381, so it does make more. Here's the point I would make. 3070 non-light hash rate models are still in very high demand. Right? You're talking about, what are these? Buy it nows on eBay for $1,600. Yeah, bro. $1,325 for that one, non-light hash rate. $1,500 for that one. Let's go ahead and look at a RTX 3080 light hash rate. I mean, it looks like, to me, they're the same price. About. Right? 1,500. I don't know. Me, personally, I feel like the 3070 is going to be worth more. Or maybe it's just worth more now before the merge. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like you're not really upgrading. I feel like, money-wise, I feel like you're not really upgrading. Does that make sense? It's kind of weird. That's an awkward one. I think, you know, it's a good topic of discussion for sure. Because it's awkward. It's awkward. Whoo-wee. For EMH, I'm doing good. Thank you, good sir. Happy Dictator at Summit. Do you think FPGA might run a risk to Ergo? I don't know. I mean, obviously, when I had the interview with the developer of Ergo, he didn't seem opposed to ASICs when inquired. So I don't think he would be opposed to FPGA. That doesn't mean that I'm sure that actually that would come to fruition at this point. We'll have to see. Abby Tim says that son of a tech is getting like maybe 10 more mega hash a second for 100 more watts. That's horrible efficiency. Yes, there is the efficiency problem. There's also just what's worth more money problem. 4EMH says, any idea why everyone stay in flock pool on Red Raptorium and have 73% of the network on one pool? Dev is making a killer on the pool. I mean, obviously the devs are going to make money on that stuff. Not as much as you would think, but just coming from a pool dev perspective. Personally, I'm not on that pool. I have never been on that pool. And I have proof that I've never been on that pool. I've been on our plant the whole time. So, all right. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Now, Raptorium, under my understanding, is protected here, right? But why is it Flock Pool? Let's pull it up. I should have it here. Where's the CPU miner? Because this is pretty easy. You guys know the answer, right? Why is it Flock Pool that has the hash rate? It's because the miner fee is reduced by 0.25% while mining on Flock Pool. That's why. What do we got going on here? What's wrong? What's wrong? This is very, very simple, guys. There's no competition on Raptorium. Raptorium is too small of a coin still at this point to have any competition. Therefore, you're going to run into problems like this. This is typically why while a lot of people get really excited about new algorithms, new coins, and so on, you need to slow down a little bit because everybody went super hard onto this, just like the Chia thing, right? And now we're in a position where one pool and one miner developer controls the entire market, and the difficulty skyrocketed, the profitability has gone down. It's just one of those things that's going to happen with small coins. But there's your answer as to why. Can you fix it? The only way to fix this is by creating, okay. So first of all, it would be, what do you got to do here, right? What are the fees for, all right. So the fees for, so how do you fix this, right? Let's go into it. The fees for Flock Pool is 1%. So first of all, you can say, okay, I have to create a pool that has basically 0.75% fee, right? That would fix it. Wait, no, it doesn't. Supernova, cheaper fee. O11 data, cheaper fee. Australian miners, cheaper fee. Zerg pool, cheaper fee. G pool, cheaper fee. So what's the real problem? Is it that the fees are actually cheaper? Nope. The real problem is that the dev of the only miner that really works for it has put this at the top of his GitHub. Because it's not, in fact, the cheapest, right? So it's because there's only one miner. That's the problem. There's only one good miner, I should say. But there's only one good miner right now. And that is why this is happening. Ethically, you know, Mikhail Zurowski, it's a little off. It's a little sketch, ethically, you know, but there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the nature of the beast. So there you go. Am King has said, have I messed with immersion systems? No, I have not. I've looked at them, but seemed cost prohibitive at this time. Technics Corner says, some effective performance in 4000 series GPUs is said to be 3 times compared to 3000. Would that affect the mining market on the whole? Any opinion here? So the 3 times performance is more than likely not related to the memory performance. And if we're talking about mining, we're talking about memory performance for the most part, right? So we really need to know what that memory performance is going to be before we can make any determination on how fast or whatever it would be. But yeah. Happy Dictator says, thinking of instead of Raptorium, I might just put my CPUs to solo mine Monero just because of long term. I mean, for fun, right? Mr. Solo says, Son of a Tech, how much different GPU drivers have an effect on mining ETH? Is there a best driver? So, you know, back in the Polaris days, yes. And then currently there's potential for better drivers. Usually the miners will have like a list of drivers that they work best with. So you want to check that list. And then additionally, there are the outlying cases where you have like version 1 light hash rate 3060s that are fully unlocked on driver 470.05, dev driver from NVIDIA. So yes, drivers matter. Your mileage will vary depending on the GPU you have and what miner you're using. So, you know, whenever you're just going through like notes, etc., for any sort of miner, right? So if we hit, I don't know, NBMiner, usually, let's see if I can find one. I don't know. Usually like in the README, I don't really want to download anything on this system. Usually like in the README, there'll be notes about like what's best. This is especially true with like old Polaris cards as well. Mr. Dizzy says, any comments on HiveOS and AMD drivers? Is it worth going past 20.4? Is there a workaround to going newer, benefits, etc.? No, I mean the only real reason would be for the RX 6000 series, right? At this point, from what I can tell. Andrew says, Son of a Tech, would you buy GTX 1070s for $350? No, I would not. B. Kelly says, at Son of a Tech, I have an X470 motherboard with AMD Athlon 3000G processor with Vega 3 graphics, only 5 slots. Thoughts on only 5 of the 6 PCIe slots work. You could try changing the speed of the slots within the BIOS, and that may unlock it. Now, in some cases, if you have, not in some cases, in a lot of cases, if you have an M.2 drive plugged in, that could be possibly shutting off one of the PCI slots. And even in older cases, not on X470, I don't think, but in some older cases, there was a deal where using certain SATA ports would shut off certain PCIe slots. Read your motherboard manual is the moral of the story there. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, hopefully I got that right, said, Son of a Tech, would you suggest T-Rex miner or the latest NBMiner for the 3080 Ti? I'm sticking with NBMiner just across the board, my man. They update the fastest. They're usually ahead of the game. They seem to be the ones that actually do the LHR, right? And everybody else copies them. That's how it feels to me right now. John B says, at Son of a Tech, the newest AMD drivers do not work with the RX 480 anymore. That would make sense. You tried and got an error. Turned out you had to roll back for it to work. Yeah, you want to, like, there's a certain point where, especially with mining, man, it's one of those things like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And like I feel like with mining, that's even more true. Like I have a rig down right now because all that I did was take a card off that the fan wasn't working on, and up on reboot, obviously we found out that that file system was corrupted because that USB drive was corrupted. If I would have just left it running, I guess like with the fan, the card wasn't overheating. I could have just left it running, taken a nap, gotten to bed earlier yesterday, or maybe like cleaned up my office a little bit more. But instead, I spent all this time, and now I'm going to have to go back out there today to essentially reflash a whole other USB drive, get it hooked up, get it running, and then, like, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it at a certain point, right? Especially with like Polaris cards. I don't think that we're getting any faster miners or any better performance on Polaris GPUs. I just don't think that's going to happen. All right. Happy Dictator said, what do you think AMD has to accomplish to be competitive with mining as NVIDIA in hardware driver perspective? I mean, so first of all, I don't think they want to, because if we're talking about what they did, is that they bypassed essentially the need for faster memory with the Infinity cache. And so what you're seeing is essentially, like we showed you with the benchmarks earlier, right? If your job is to make a gaming processor, and at the top end of that gaming processor, you destroy the competition by 10 to 15% in high refresh rate gaming, why would you want, like, there's nothing, like, they don't need to be competitive there. They just don't. Like, is there a benefit to them selling to miners? Maybe, but in the current market, probably not. They also just have manufacturing issues, right? And then on the lower end, their 6600 is probably the most efficient card out right now. You're talking about 32 to 33 mega hash a second at 50 watts. So, I mean, it's pretty good. But what they would have to do is upgrade the GDDR6X, right? Because they're on GDDR6. And they would have to increase their bus width. Everything with mining has to do with the speed of the memory and the width of the bus, right? That's it. It's just like, which is still, that's a part of the calculation of the speed of the memory. But we're talking about like total bandwidth of the memory is what determines mining performance. So there you go. I gotta go. I'm gonna head to Jiu-Jitsu. Thanks everybody for watching this morning show. I apologize for the mistakes, but I also like making mistakes live because then you guys know how it rolls. The mistake today was thinking that the XT series Ryzen chips for 3000 up, had increased the L3 cache. That was incorrect, but we figured that out today. Also, I shouldn't be trying to research super late at night. It's not good. Thanks for all your support. I'll see you guys next Tuesday.